The Honourable Cameron Murphy.
Deputy President, on the weekend I had the privilege of joining what experts estimate as between 200,000 and 300,000 people marching across the Sydney Harbour Bridge to urge the Australian government to do more to help end the ongoing genocide in Gaza. The march was a powerful symbol of Australians standing up for humanity. People from across Sydney and the state showed up on a miserable and rainy Sunday to make their voices heard. A full cross-section of Australian society was represented at this march. People of all faiths, including many members of the Jewish community, were in attendance. People of all ages, from the elderly to the young, children, families, students, and everyone in between, marched together. There were people of all political persuasions, including from this chamber, Deputy President, Mr Lawrence and Diadam, Mr Ruddock and others from federal and state parliament, marching in what is likely to be one of the largest anti-war demonstrations in Australia's history. It was also supported by a broad range of civil society organisations, unions, community organisations and religious organisations. The so-called approval of this protest was the subject of much media scrutiny. The truth is, a protest cannot be approved or prevented by the government, the police or the courts. All Australians have a right to protest under the implied freedom of political communication in the Constitution. In New South Wales, we can manage this through the Form 1 process, which is meant to function as a notice that a public demonstration will be held so that police and other organisations can plan accordingly. It's not a request for permission, and in fact, most protests in this state take place safely without ever lodging a Form 1. The effect of the approval of a Form 1 is that those protesting will be granted immunity for some offences under the Summary Offences Act, such as obstruction of traffic and unlawful assembly. Authorisation of a protest via a Form 1 is also important to provide structure, support and safety to those who are keen to participate, members of the public and police. As Justice Rigg noted in her recent Supreme Court decision approving the Form 1 for Sunday's march, quote, "The Harbour Bridge will have to be closed to vehicles for public safety whether the event is authorised or not authorised." The Supreme Court was correct to uphold the right to protest in this instance, and in doing so, likely helped avert a potentially much more dangerous and more volatile situation. The fact is, you cannot stop large volumes of people turning up to demonstrate for a cause as important as ending the devastation, the starvation and the genocide in Gaza. It is far safer for both protesters and for the police to facilitate such gatherings to take place in a peaceful and orderly manner. The right to protest is fundamental in any democratic society. Citizens should have the opportunity to freely express themselves and advocate for issues that matter to them. This includes demonstrations that may cause disruption to others. Quoting Justice Simpson, Justice Rigg stated, I quote, "It is in the very nature of the entitlement to peaceful protest that disruption will be caused to others. The fact that the proposed assembly is likely to cause significant inconvenience to residents is far from determinative. If matters such as this were to be determinative, no assembly involving inconvenience to others would be permitted." All the great social movements in history included disruptive protests. Suffragettes fighting for the right to vote, civil rights protesters in the US and Australia, and anti-apartheid activists all engaged in acts of civil disobedience to further their fights for justice and equality. All these movements involved disruptive, inconvenienced protest. They were at times chaotic and frequently derided in the media as too radical or not the correct way of doing things at the time. Today, though, you'll struggle to find anyone who says they oppose the equality under the law for all people achieved through these movements. I suspect that in future decades, we'll be hard-pressed to find many willing to admit We'll find many willing to admit that they
member's
opposed the fight for an
time has
end to the
expired.
Israel genocide in Gaza, even
The
if it was
member's time has
inconvenient.
expired.